I need you to pause everything right now. This moment isn't ordinary. You've been carrying battles behind your smile, burdens beneath your silence, and pressure that was never meant to sit on your shoulders. You've been trying to hold it together for too long, pretending that you're okay when your spirit has been screaming for relief. I must speak to you immediately, because this has gone too far and too long without intervention. You are not a machine. You are not invincible. And yet you've been trying to survive storms that were designed to be conquered with me, not without me. You've been acting strong for everyone else while your own heart quietly shatters when no one is watching. You've gotten so used to functioning in survival mode that you've begun to confuse struggle with strength. But I didn't call you to barely survive. I called you to walk in victory, and that victory begins the moment you hand over what's been silently crushing you. What you call just another hard day has actually been spiritual warfare aimed at exhausting your soul and clouding your focus. The enemy has been subtle, not through chaos, but through weight. Weight that makes you question yourself, makes you feel like giving up, makes you feel like your prayers are bouncing back at you, unanswered. But I am here now, speaking clearly, urgently. Lay it down before it breaks you. You weren't created to be everyone's rescue while you're drowning inside. You weren't called to always be the one fixing everything while feeling forgotten by everyone. You've been asking, how much longer do I have to pretend I'm okay? And this is my response. You don't. You no longer have to pretend, hide, or push through on empty. That is not holy. That is not what I require. That is not the path I designed for you. My voice is rising now, louder than your fears, stronger than your silence, and sharper than your exhaustion. I see what no one else sees. How you cry yourself to sleep, how you talk yourself out of quitting, how you silently beg for signs while pretending you're strong. And that is why I must break the silence and say this clearly. You need to release it into my hands before it wrecks your soul. You need to breathe again without the weight of performance, perfection, or pressure. You need to stop being the glue for people who don't notice when you're breaking. You are not responsible for holding up what I never told you to carry. I am not disappointed in you for struggling. I am moved with compassion. You've done more with less. You stood firm when most would fall, but even warriors need a place to collapse and be restored. Let me be that place. This is not the time to hold it together. This is the time to be held. I am not stepping in to judge you. I'm stepping in to rescue you. I am not criticizing your weakness. I'm offering strength in exchange for your weariness. I didn't come to scold you for being tired. I came to carry you while you rest. You've been showing up for everyone else. Now I'm showing up for you. And I won't let you keep breaking in silence. This is me, shouting through your storm. Give. Do. We. Now. Before it gets darker. Before it gets heavier. Before you get numb. I know you're close to shutting down. That's why I'm close to lifting you up. But I can't do it unless you admit you're not okay. I can't restore what you keep hiding. You've carried enough. I must speak to you now because you've held in the scream long enough. It's time to drop what's breaking you and take my hand. Because the next thing I'm about to say will shift everything. You thought the silence meant absence. But I was there, in the background of every breakdown, in the pause between your sobs, in the stillness after the shouting in your head settled into silence again. Your quiet tears didn't fall into emptiness. They fell into my hands. And not one of them was wasted. You didn't cry out loud because you didn't want to worry anyone. You stayed quiet because you were convinced no one would understand the storm raging inside. But I did. I was listening when you whispered into your pillow. I was present when you sat in the corner of the room trying to breathe without collapsing. I watched you sit at the edge of your bed with clenched fists, telling yourself to just make it through one more hour. And in those unseen moments, I wasn't far, I was closer than your own breath. You've been grieving things others didn't know you lost. You've been mourning the version of you that used to feel joyful, peaceful, hopeful. The world kept moving while your heart stood still. People assumed you were fine because your mouth smiled, but they didn't notice how your eyes looked tired even when you laughed. But I saw everything, and I need you to understand this. Your quiet pain has been louder in heaven than any shout in a stadium. Every tear you wiped away quickly, I captured it. Every exhale of defeat, I recorded it. Every time you forced yourself to keep going when all you wanted to do was stop, I took note of it and marked it down, not as weakness, but as courageous resistance. You don't know this, but the place you're about to step into is being built with the very tears you thought would drown you. You assumed your breakdowns disqualified you, but they were actually the blueprints for what I'm about to construct through you. You thought you were crying alone, but the angels stood still, watching in reverence as you endured what would have broken others. I wasn't distant. I was gathering evidence. Not to condemn, but to crown. Not to punish, but to elevate. The tears you cried in secret are about to become the oil of public honor. You didn't give up. That's what matters to me. Even when you questioned me, even when you doubted your faith, even when your prayers felt hollow, you stayed. And that kind of endurance carries power in the unseen realm. I must speak this to you now before another tear falls with the lie that no one cares. I care. And I'm the one whose care actually shifts reality. What you sowed in sorrow is about to return to you in power. Not just peace, but purpose. Not just calm, but calling. You endured spiritual contractions in silence, and now you're on the brink of birthing something that will silence every voice that said you were finished. What you're carrying didn't die. It was being refined in your private wilderness. Now I'm bringing you into view, and the very pain that almost buried you will become the reason others rise from their own ashes. You cried because your heart broke, but I'm rebuilding it stronger. You cried because you were misunderstood, but now I'm giving you language to help others find clarity. You cried because you felt forgotten, but now I'm surrounding you with reminders that I never moved an inch away. Your tears have spoken for you. Now I will speak for you. I'm placing weight on your words. I'm putting wind behind your walk. I'm releasing power into your voice. Because what you wept over in silence will soon become a weapon of breakthrough for others. I'm turning sorrow into strategy, pain into position, waiting into witnessing. And this is only the beginning. I've watched the moments where your strength felt like a thread unraveling with every breath. You've stood on the edge of surrender, not because you lack courage, but because you've been fighting without rest. You've carried the weight of invisible battles, ones no one applauds you for, no one checks on, and no one even sees. Yet I've seen it all. I felt the ache in your chest when motivation vanished, the confusion that clouded your thoughts, the fatigue that pressed down on you like a storm you couldn't escape. You've questioned if it's worth continuing, wondered if there's any breakthrough coming, asked me silently if I forgot how long you've been holding on. That's why I must speak to you now. Because you need to know this. When your grip began to loosen, mine did not. You felt like the ground beneath you was shifting, but I've been anchoring you even while you didn't notice. I am not the one who lets go when the pressure rises. I'm the one who digs in deeper, reinforcing what's about to snap. You think you're close to failure, but in reality, you're standing in the final minutes before reversal. I don't base my presence on how strong you appear. My nearness is drawn to your vulnerability, not your perfection. You've been measuring progress with emotions, but I've been measuring your faith by your persistence. Your feelings told you it was hopeless. Your faith, even if the size of a flicker, told you to get out of bed one more time. And I counted that. Heaven records the uncelebrated moments, when you chose to believe me despite the silence, when you stood up after being knocked down, when you showed up even while breaking inside. This isn't a setback. It's a pivot point. You see struggle. I see sacred preparation. You feel like quitting. I see the moment just before things shift. When you assumed I was silent, I was actually bracing you for the next release. You weren't losing. You were being realigned. There is no shame in your weariness. It's a sign you've given everything you had. and now I'm stepping in with what you lacked. I'm not asking you to be strong right now. I'm not expecting you to be brave in every moment. I'm not waiting for you to be perfect. I'm here, right here, holding the part of your heart that is too tired to keep pretending. I'm surrounding your weakness with my strength. I'm covering your fear with my promises. I'm wrapping your doubts in my unshakable truth. I'm not here to scold you for feeling like giving up. I'm here to remind you that you never had to carry it without me. You thought the pressure was a sign to stop, but it's actually confirmation that something new is emerging. Labor pains don't mean death. They signal birth. The intensity you feel is not the end. It's the surge before transformation. Don't misinterpret the weight of this season. It's not punishment. It's preparation for what's being pushed into your destiny. You're not collapsing. You're being rerouted into something that couldn't be accessed from your last position. This tension isn't random. It's divine tension. And I'm standing on the line that feels like it's slipping out of your hands, keeping it steady, securing your hope, stabilizing your soul. You might think you've lost your grip, but I've never loosened mine. And because I'm still holding on, you're not falling, you're being shifted. Even when your faith shakes, my promise stands firm. Even when your voice trembles, my word doesn't flinch. Even when your confidence falters, my plans remain immovable. So don't believe the lie that you're too weak to continue. You're exactly where the shift begins. You don't have to force it. Just don't let go of me. I'll carry you across the gap you can't cross yourself. I'll sustain what feels too heavy. I'll finish what you're too tired to complete. And when you finally see what I've been working behind the veil, you'll understand why I couldn't let you stop here. I saw the look in your eyes when they changed. When the words stopped matching their promises, when the affection became distance, when loyalty turned into silence, you blamed yourself for their departure. But this is where I step in, not just to comfort you, but to reveal the truth you were never meant to carry alone. It hurts, I know. The ones you confided in began to fade without explanation. The conversations grew colder. Their presence, once so constant, slowly vanished while you were still trying to hold things together. You assumed you were the problem, didn't you? You searched for flaws in yourself, revisited every interaction, rewound every word you said, wondering if you triggered their withdrawal. But you need to hear me now. They walked away, not because you failed, but because they were not equipped to stay for the season I'm taking you into. And while they stepped back, I stepped closer. I did not leave when their support disappeared. I did not grow distant when you were left standing in confusion. I didn't need you to be perfect to remain near. I saw the betrayal. I witnessed the disappointment. And I chose this moment, this very second, to remind you that not every loss is destruction. Some separations are sacred. Some exits are necessary for the unveiling of who you truly are becoming. When they left, it revealed more than just their heart. It revealed your strength. You continued even when their silence echoed through your days. You pressed on even when the warmth turned cold. You adjusted to the absence without becoming bitter. And that matters to me more than you know. They walked away, but I didn't. I never closed the door. I never turned away when your words turned into sighs. I stayed. Through every lonely morning. Through every night filled with questions. I've been listening to the conversations you've had with your ceiling at 2 a.m. I've been collecting the fragments of your trust like shattered glass. Gently, patiently, without blaming you for breaking. This is not the end of your story. It's the exposure of what could not come with you. You've outgrown relationships that were only meant to be temporary scaffolding, not your foundation. That's why the shift happened. That's why the distance appeared. I allowed the separation not to punish you, but to preserve you. Not to hurt you, but to hide you from misalignment. If they were meant to walk the next chapter with you, they would have stayed. But what I'm constructing now requires precision. I can't allow people who misread your value to sit front row to your unveiling. I can't allow voices that doubted your calling to shape your next step. I'm cleaning the atmosphere around you, not out of cruelty but out of necessity. And while others may have exited without explanation, I'm stepping in with clarity. You are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are not invisible. You are not broken beyond repair. I am showing up in this very breath to remind you, your worth was never based on their ability to recognize it. I knew you before they ever applauded you. I chose you before they ever noticed you. And I am here, not because you summoned me with perfection, but because I chose you in the middle of your uncertainty. You've questioned why they turned away, but now, I'm showing you what I've been preparing while they walked out. What's next doesn't require their approval. What's coming doesn't depend on their applause. I'm building something that doesn't need validation from the people who disappeared. And even now, I'm surrounding you with my presence, not as a replacement, but as your source. I'm not a backup plan. I am the plan. And this moment is holy. It's the beginning of the healing you didn't know you were ready for. Stay here with me. The next word I speak will unlock what their silence tried to bury. You've let silence speak louder than truth, and comparison has crept in like a thief, slowly draining the confidence I once watched you carry so freely. You've stared into mirrors, not just to see your reflection, but to search for evidence that you're still enough, still worthy, still valuable, still chosen. And each time the world failed to affirm you, a piece of your inner certainty dimmed. I need you to hear me now, without filters, without resistance, without dismissing what I'm about to say. Your identity is not a question mark in heaven. Your worth has never been based on accomplishments, applause, appearance, or performance. You are not a ranking. You are not a number. You are not a forgotten file in a system of the unimportant. You are mine. And I must say this now because I've watched how quietly you've allowed doubt to become familiar, like a shadow always nearby, whispering that you're less than others, that you've fallen behind, that you failed to live up to some imagined standard. None of that came from me. I never measured you by how productive you are. I never decided your value based on the approval of those around you. You've let temporary voices shape your permanent identity, and that's why I'm interrupting your thoughts today. I see how your shoulders sink when you scroll through endless feeds of people who look happier, more successful, more loved. You've started to believe you missed something, that others passed you by because you lacked something essential. But comparison is a liar, and its only goal is to distract you from the truth I sealed over your life before time began. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are not invisible in my kingdom. You have a place that no one else can take. Your fingerprint is unique, not just on earth, but in my design. I crafted you with purpose embedded in your very breath. You weren't a random thought. You weren't an afterthought. You were an intentional release of my heart into the world. And no mistake, no failure, no rejection has the authority to override what I declared about you. The enemy has tried to distort your self-view by making you internalize the rejection of others. But their inability to see your light doesn't mean it stopped shining. They may have walked away, criticized, ignored, or misunderstood you, but I never took their opinion into account when I defined your worth. I didn't consult your failures when I planned your future. I didn't need someone else's validation to assign your identity. You've been treating your value like something that fluctuates, up when you're praised, down when you feel overlooked. But I don't operate that way. Your worth has always remained steady in my eyes, even when your feelings said otherwise. I didn't stop calling you beloved when you felt unlovable. I didn't stop declaring you chosen when you felt cast aside. I didn't reduce your potential when you made mistakes. I remained faithful when your faith faltered. I stayed consistent when you doubted. I waited for this moment, not to remind you of what you lost, but to restore what the world tried to steal, your identity. You need to stop basing your worth on people who couldn't even see the depth of your spirit. Their departure was not a mirror. Their silence was not confirmation. Their absence does not reflect who you are. I do. And I say you are still my masterpiece. Still my child. Still my instrument. Still my vessel. And I am not finished. I'm preparing to bring forth things in you that haven't even been imagined yet. The version of you that believed you were small is being dismantled, not by force, but by truth. Truth that pierces the lie that you are not enough. You are more than enough, because I live within you. And no label this world has ever placed on you can withstand what I'm about to declare next. There were doors you begged me to open, paths you pleaded to walk, people you longed to keep close, opportunities you prayed would last, seasons you weren't ready to leave. And when they slipped through your hands, you wept as if I had turned away. But what felt like abandonment was mercy in disguise. What felt like loss was a route sent to protect you from what would have wounded you deeper than you could handle. You saw the unanswered prayers as punishment, but I saw them as divine shields, positioned to intercept threats you never even saw coming. You wanted to stay where you were because it felt familiar, but what is familiar isn't always faithful. And I couldn't let your comfort become a coffin. I couldn't let you settle into a place that would drain your purpose quietly while you called it peace. So I disrupted it. I removed what you weren't willing to walk away from. I exposed the flaws in what you thought was flawless. I allowed the delay, the shift, the disconnection, because I had to realign your steps toward something you couldn't see yet. Had you remained where you begged to stay, you would have forfeited the greater things I've been arranging behind the scenes. Yes, you heard. Yes, it confused you. Yes, it made you question whether I was even listening. But I was more attentively than ever. You were asking me to bless what I never built. You were investing your energy into people who were never sent to steward your calling. You were attaching yourself to roles and titles that were too small for what I've deposited in your spirit. And out of love, not anger, I had to remove what you thought you needed so I could make room for what you were born for. The heartbreak didn't come to destroy you. It came to detach you from what was draining your destiny. I saw the manipulation hidden behind smiles. I saw the traps disguised as opportunities. I saw the compromise beginning to creep into your convictions. And I intervened. Not to embarrass you, but to elevate you. I didn't announce it. I didn't make a scene. I just quietly removed what you were clinging to. And when you mourned the exit, I stood beside you silently, knowing one day you would see the wisdom in what felt like a wound. And now that day is drawing near. Now I'm beginning to unveil the why behind the no. Now I'm pulling back the curtain so you can understand that what you perceived as rejection was actually protection in its highest form. I didn't say no to punish you. I said no to preserve the brilliance I placed inside you. Some environments would have buried it. Some relationships would have diluted it. Some connections would have twisted it for their own gain. And so I stepped in, redirected your steps, and restructured your environment to match the magnitude of what I'm about to release through your life. You thought you were being pushed away, but in reality, you were being pulled upward. You were never discarded. You were being repositioned. And where I'm taking you now requires different soil. You can't grow in a place designed to keep you small. So I shifted you, not because you failed, but because you outgrew the level you were begging to remain on. The redirection was evidence of your promotion, not proof of your mistake. So don't cry over closed doors. Celebrate the ones I locked on your behalf. Don't grieve the loss of people who couldn't honor your calling. Rejoice that I'm surrounding you now with those who will recognize the value they didn't. And don't carry shame over what didn't work out. It wasn't rejection. It was a turning point. And it's only just beginning. I had to take you off that road so I could bring you to this moment. The moment you finally understand that my love will always reroute you before destruction touches what I've declared precious. You assumed my quietness meant distance. You believed the stillness meant denial. You feared the waiting meant I had turned my face away. But what you didn't realize is that silence in the kingdom doesn't mean inactivity. It means construction. You were mistaking the delay for disinterest, when in reality, I was orchestrating something far beyond the scope of your prayer. You asked for rescue, and I began building a redemption. You asked for a door, and I began designing a destination. I wasn't ignoring you. I was outpacing you. My silence wasn't a void. It was a signal that heaven was moving in dimensions your understanding couldn't reach. While you sat in the hallway of uncertainty, wondering if I had changed my mind, I was rerouting storms, shifting atmospheres, ranging alignments, and silencing voices that would have sabotaged what I'm preparing to release. I knew if I spoke too soon, you would have settled for the partial when I was forming the fullness. If I had responded quickly, you might have run ahead with assumptions rather than following me in precision. So I waited. Not because I was foe, but because I was wording. And I didn't need you to see it. I needed you to trust me in it. I know the silence frightened you. I know it felt like abandonment. You kept asking, Lord, have you left me? You whispered into the night, why can't I feel you anymore? But your feelings are not the foundation of my faithfulness. Just because you couldn't trace me didn't mean I wasn't surrounding you. Just because you didn't hear me didn't mean I wasn't speaking through other means. Sometimes I must quiet your surroundings so your faith can rise above your senses. Sometimes I withhold sound not to punish, but to purify. I let the noise of the world fade so that when I do speak, you'll know it's unmistakably me. My voice carries weight, and I don't waste words. When I speak, atmospheres shift. And before I utter what you've been waiting to hear, I ensure that you're in the posture to carry it. Not just hear it, but respond with alignment. I've seen you pacing in your heart. I've watched your prayers grow shorter because you felt I stopped listening. But I never missed a word. I was collecting them, storing them, letting them rise like incense before my throne while I molded the outcome to match my perfect will, not just your immediate request. I didn't want to just answer you. I wanted to astound you. And what's coming will not be the thing you thought you lost. It will be the version I intended all along. Your timing would have handed you something temporary. My silence was securing something permanent. Your plan was shaped by pain. My strategy is carved from purpose. And while you were struggling to interpret the quiet, I was finalizing details. I was refining relationships. I was uprooting toxic influences. I was preparing provision, positioning destiny helpers, unlocking resources, and removing hindrances you didn't even know were blocking the flow. That stillness was sacred. The hut was holy. It was embellishment, it was preparation. And now, I'm breaking the silence not just with answers, but with an entirely new revelation. You're not returning to what was. You're being invited into what couldn't exist until now. You're not being handed a late response. You're being entrusted with a perfect unveiling. And when I speak, everything around you will echo with clarity. The void you felt will be filled with understanding. The confusion will collapse under the weight of my truth. And you will realize I was never silent. I was just waiting for the right second to reveal what your spirit was finally strong enough to carry. This is that second. Listen closely now, because the next thing I say will shift the atmosphere around your life entirely. You've looked at your wounds and wondered why they ever had to form in the first place. You've replayed the heartbreak, the betrayal, the loss, the unanswered questions, and whispered, was any of this necessary? You've cried over time that can't be recovered, opportunities that vanished, and seasons that ended before their fruit appeared. You assumed the agony was a detour, that the ache was a sign that something went wrong, that maybe you missed a step or misunderstood my direction. But I must speak this clearly to you now. Nothing you've suffered is being discarded. Not 1 minute has slipped through my fingers. Not one tear hath been wasted. Not one lonely night hath been ignored. What you've seen as fragments, I've been weaving into foundations. What you considered brokenness, I've been transforming into sacred blueprints. What felt like a void is becoming a vessel. I am not merely comforting you after the pain, I am creating through it. The pressure didn't destroy your purpose. It revealed it. The crushing didn't diminish your capacity, it multiplied it. The heaviness didn't strip your identity, it awakened it. You were never being punished, you were being planted. What others saw as an ending, I saw as a planting ground. I buried you in places of obscurity not to suffocate you, but so that the roots could grow deeper before the bloom. Every time you were overlooked, I was allowing humility to take root so that when I elevate you, pride will have no access. Every struggle you thought disqualified you has only qualified you for levels others won't understand. I am not in the business of random pain. I am the Redeemer. I take what was meant to crush you and shape it into a crown. I take the ashes and breathe life into them. I turn prisons into platforms, and I am doing that right now in you. Your story isn't tragic, it's being rewritten by the author of eternity. Your pain isn't the full picture, it's just one stroke in the masterpiece. You've been asking me to remove it, but I've been using it as a chisel. You've been pleading for me to stop the fire, but I've been refining the gold. You begged for escape, but I've been preparing your emergence. You're not broken, you're being built. And what I'm constructing in you can't be accomplished in comfort. Some foundations require deep excavation. Some callings demand seasons of silence. Some anointings only come after the crushing. And though it hasn't made sense to your heart, it has always been clear in mine. I am stretching your capacity to carry glory. I am increasing your discernment. I am fortifying your endurance. And none of it is in vain. The strength you feel rising, that came from the days you thought you wouldn't survive. The compassion you now carry, that was born in the same place you bled. The wisdom flowing through your spirit, it was forged in the fire you never chose but didn't run from. Don't resent the path, I'm revealing its purpose. Don't curse the process, I'm releasing the promise. What tried to break you is now bowing to the breakthrough I'm ushering in. You didn't suffer without cause. You didn't walk through darkness without light waiting on the other side. And you're not emerging empty, you're rising with more than what you had before. More strength, more clarity, more depth, more authenticity. Your scars are not symbols of failure, they are evidence that the enemy didn't win. And I'm using them now to speak life into others. Your testimony will carry fire. Your story will unlock prison doors for those still trapped. Your survival wasn't accidental. I kept you breathing for a reason. I let you walk through it not to damage you, but to deepen you. And now, the depth I've cultivated will become the well that others drink from. This is not meaningless. This is holy ground. And the next time you question whether it was worth it, look at what I birthed through it next. There were paths you wanted to walk that never opened. Rooms you tried to enter that remained locked no matter how hard you knocked. You stood in front of opportunities that seemed perfect, and when they crumbled, you assumed I had turned against you. You mistook the closed access as a personal failure, convinced that maybe you didn't pray right, or work hard enough, or believe strong enough. But you need to understand something now, because I can no longer let you carry guilt for what was never yours to carry. I was the one who closed those doors. Not out of rejection, but out of fierce protection. You only saw a small piece of what was behind them. But I saw everything, the motives, the traps, the cost hidden behind the invitation. What you interpreted as rejection was actually my mercy stepping between you and something that would have unraveled your peace, distracted your calling, or shattered your future. I didn't block you because you were unworthy. I blocked it because it was unworthy of you. I wasn't denying your breakthrough. I was ensuring it wouldn't be delayed by detours that wore disguises. You were ready to give your heart to something I knew would break it. You were about to plant your purpose in soil that couldn't sustain it. I couldn't let that happen, so I intervened quietly, even though it would make you question everything. You cried, you pleaded, you even felt like I was ignoring your faith. But I wasn't ignoring you, I was guarding you. You were walking toward what seemed like stability, but I saw the cracks beneath the surface. I saw the manipulation wrapped in compliments. I saw the pressure disguised as promotion. I saw the long-term wear on your soul that would come from the temporary yes you were begging me for. And I made a decision, not out of coldness, but because I love you too much to let you walk blind into what would wound you deeper than you knew. Some of those closed doors didn't make sense at the time, and even now, you might still feel the sting of their absence. But I promise you, one day soon, you'll thank me for every no. You'll look back and realize it wasn't the enemy who blocked it. It was your Father, standing in front of danger, shielding your spirit, saying, "Not this way. I have better." I was never trying to take something from you. I was trying to keep what I placed inside you from being taken. Some relationships I ended before you could attach your identity to them. Some jobs I allowed to slip away before you settled into something that would rob your joy. Some dreams I rewrote because what you were aiming for was too small for what I've planned. My protection often looks like frustration at first, but eventually, it reveals itself as perfect timing. What hurts you now will make sense when you see what I'm opening next. The doors I closed had to shut to make space for what fits. Not just something better, but something tailor-made for your assignment, your values, your growth, and your long-term alignment with heaven's purpose. You are not missing out. You are being positioned. And what's ahead will not require forcing, begging, or proving. The doors I open won't demand you to shrink or compromise or pretend to be someone you're not. They will recognize your light without you having to dim it. They will receive your heart without breaking it. They will support your vision without twisting it. And you won't have to chase what I've already assigned to your path. So stop mourning the entryways that shot in your face. I needed them closed to lead you into the rooms I've reserved for you. And now that you know, walk forward. Because I'm about to unlock what no one will be able to shut. You saw them get chosen first. You clapped while they were celebrated. You sat in the background, waiting for your name to be called, thinking maybe I skipped you, maybe I passed over you, maybe you missed your turn. The truth is, I saw every moment you chose to honor others even when your own heart ached in silence. I watched how you supported people who never once turned back to ask how you were doing. You poured out encouragement while you felt empty. You smiled through the ache of delay. You never tried to take shortcuts. You didn't push your way to the front or fight for recognition. You waited. And I took note of every second. Not one act of humility went unnoticed. Not one tear behind closed doors has been ignored. You kept your character when it would have been easier to compromise. You stayed true to who I made you to be when others climbed ladders that weren't meant for them. And now, I must speak, because I'm about to lift you in a way that will silence every voice that questioned your position. This season of hiddenness wasn't punishment. It was preservation. I kept you behind the curtain, not because you weren't ready, but because the stage wasn't ready for what I've cultivated in you. The world celebrates speed, but I anoint endurance. They advanced by their own efforts, but you waited for my hand. And because of that, your rise will not be loud or flashy. It will be undeniable. It won't be the kind of breakthrough that fades in a moment. It will be a turning point that reshapes everything around you. You felt behind. You felt invisible. You've even wondered if you misunderstood the promises I whispered to you years ago. But nothing I said has expired. No word I gave you has lost its power. You were not behind schedule. I was laying foundations so deep that when the time comes to elevate you, nothing will be able to shake it. Those who ran ahead did not disqualify you. What's yours has not been given away. I am not in a rush, because what I am building through you is meant to last. What I pour out now will not be a moment. It will be a movement. I know the waiting hurt. I know watching others live what you prayed for made your silence feel louder. But you never tried to take their blessing. You honored their journey while protecting your hope. That is why I can trust you with more. Because you never tried to make it about being seen. You made it about being faithful. And now, I will honor that. I am lifting you. Not just in influence, but in integrity. I am lifting your voice, not just in volume, but in authority. I am lifting your life, not to impress crowds, but to reveal my fingerprints all over your process. The tables you were once excluded from, I'm calling you to lead them. The places where you were once dismissed, I'm making space that no one else can fill. The doors that remain shut in your face, I'm unlocking with keys custom fit to your obedience. You were not overlooked, you were hidden. And now, I'm revealing you in due time. Not as a reaction to what others did, but as the fulfillment of what I spoke over you long ago. And here is what will separate you. You won't rise with resentment. You won't carry bitterness. You won't throw your success in anyone's face. You will rise with grace, with gentleness, with power wrapped in humility. Because I've refined your heart through the waiting. You're not the same person who once begged for breakthrough. You're stronger. You're deeper. You're pure. You've learned how to handle the quiet, and now I can trust you with the sound. And when they ask how it happened, you'll point to me, because you will know it was never your striving, never your strategy, never your schedule. It was my timing, and that timing begins now. You've sat in the quiet, retracing your steps, wondering if a single decision altered everything, if one hesitation ruined the chance I once placed before you. Regret has visited your mind like a thief in the night, whispering that the window closed while you were still trying to find the strength to climb through it. You've questioned whether the delay was your fault, whether the detour cost you too much, whether someone else stepped into the space that was meant for you. But I need you to hear this with no confusion. Your moment is not lost. I do not operate in the chaos of human deadlines. I do not measure destiny by clocks or calendars. I do not take back what I designed before you even took your first breath. I am not pressured by time. I am the creator of it. And what I have declared over your life cannot be erased by hesitation, nor handed to another because of delay. I don't work on man's system of expiration dates. My promises are not bound by deadlines you thought you missed. I have seen every turn you made, every pause you took, every battle you endured that slowed your feet. None of it disqualified you. None of it canceled my plan. The journey may have been longer than you expected, but it did not subtract from what I placed ahead. In fact, it added to it. For every step you thought cost you time, I added substance. For every detour, I added layers of wisdom. For every delay, I deepen your roots. What others obtain quickly may fade just as fast, but what I'm preparing to release in your life will be established with lasting impact. You feared you were late, but I was simply setting the stage. You believed someone else took your place, but I've never needed to subtract from another to fulfill what I designed for you. I don't run out of space. I don't reduce my children to a race for blessings. I don't replace purpose. I protect it until it's time. Even the areas you thought were wasted are about to make sense. The relationships that ended, the opportunities that vanished, the moments you thought would never return, I've kept them preserved, not lost. Because I know how to restore. Not just in part, but in fullness. I know how to bring you to a place where it feels like you never missed a step, because I've been redeeming the time while you've been healing. This moment, right now, is not behind schedule. It's precisely aligned with what I intended. The fact that you still feel the pull in your spirit means it's not over. The desire you thought had faded, the vision you laid down because life felt too heavy, the dream that still flickers faintly in your heart, I'm reigniting it. I'm calling it back to life. I'm removing the shame that told you it was too late. I'm confronting the lie that said your season passed you by. I'm speaking clearly now. Nothing meant for you can be stolen, not even by your own missteps. When I declare something over you, it's sealed. When I appoint a time, no man can override it. You may have taken the long way, but the destination hasn't moved. You may have lost confidence, but the calling hasn't shifted. You may have grown tired, but the assignment hasn't been reassigned. I have not revoked what I authored. I am not building a backup plan. I'm bringing you back to the original one, but this time with deeper endurance, sharper discernment, and a heart that knows how to trust even when it doesn't all make sense. So stop counting the years. Stop analyzing the what-ifs. Stop believing that it's too far gone. If I want it for you, and I still do, nothing will stand in the way. Your moment is not just coming. It's been preserved, and it's already starting to unfold beneath your feet. Walk forward. Your time is still intact, because I am time, and I never misplace what belongs to me. There's something you must understand. Your arrival at this moment is not a coincidence. The stirring in your spirit, the urgency you felt without words to explain it, the ache that has intensified without clear reason, none of it is accidental. The alignment you're stepping into was orchestrated long before you had the strength to walk toward it. While you were questioning whether you had fallen behind, I was preparing this very minute to intersect with your spirit. This is not a delayed response. This is a divine intersection. You are not running late. You are not walking behind schedule. You are right where I intended you to be for what is about to unfold. My timing has always been perfect, and this is no exception. You didn't miss the open door. It wasn't scheduled to open until now. You weren't forgotten. I was waiting for the precise second your heart would be ready to receive without fear, without pride, without the need to control it. You see, the delay you felt was not denial. It was design. Every second you spent wondering if you were too far gone. I was aligning pieces in the background, people, resources, environments, and even your own growth, to meet you right here, at this moment, fully prepared. The reason the burden has felt so heavy lately is because the weight of your next assignment is drawing near. Your spirit has been responding to a transition it couldn't fully explain. A tension inside of you isn't confusion. It's confirmation that the atmosphere is shifting. And now I speak with urgency, not because you're running out of time, but because this is the moment you must not overlook. Too much has been prepared for you to turn back now. The fullness of what I've set in motion cannot be stopped by what you think you've lost. You are not behind. You're right on the edge of something I've been waiting to unveil. And you must let go of the mindset that tells you you're catching up. You're not catching up. You're walking into alignment. You're stepping into something tailor-made, not recycle. You're walking into plans not delayed but preserved. Even your waiting was not wasted. While others moved fast, I had you move deeply. While they were racing, you were rooting. And now, while they are exhausted from chasing things I never sent, you're rising in strength to carry what I've appointed. I allowed you to feel the ache of time not to frustrate you, but to prepare you, to stretch your capacity, to sharpen your focus, to break your dependency on applause and accelerate your discernment. If I had released this earlier, you would have tried to build it through your own hands. But now, you'll know it was me. And that's why this moment matters. Because you're no longer striving, you're surrendering. You're no longer trying to make it happen, you're allowing it to be revealed. That's the difference between breakthrough and burnout. My breath. And I'm breathing on you now. Can you feel it? The atmosphere around you is shifting. The heaviness is thinning. The confusion is breaking. The stillness is starting to speak. This is the second where heaven and earth touch, and you are standing in the center of it. Do not miss it because you thought you were too late. Time didn't pass you. It was preparing to honor you. You didn't arrive breathless. You arrived ready. Not perfect, not polished, but surrendered. And that's all I ever needed. The door is opening now, not because you forced it, but because it's time. Not because you earned it, but because I ordained it. And as you step forward, release the weight of false timelines. Let go of the pressure to prove. Stop apologizing for how long it took. You are here now, and that's enough. You were not called to be on time with the world. You were called to be in time with me. And this, right now, is that time. Long before anyone misunderstood you, misjudged your journey, or misnamed your identity, I already knew the full design of who you are. You are not just a name written on paper. You are a purpose written into eternity. You are not a face in the crowd. You are a voice I recognize in the stillness. When others labeled you based on what they saw on the surface, I was watching what was forming beneath. The depth, the character, the fight to stay standing when everything around you tried to make you fall. I know every detail. I've heard what they said behind closed doors. I've seen how you were overlooked when you should have been honored. I witnessed the moments they gave credit to others while you quietly carried the weight behind the scenes. And while the world placed value on visibility, I was drawn to your integrity in the hidden places. I saw the private cost no one else acknowledged, the prayers you whispered between breaths, the promises you held onto when doubt was screaming, the pressure you carried without showing it on your face. You've walked roads others wouldn't survive, and yet you didn't let your pain corrupt your heart. You could have turned bitter, but you stayed tender. You could have abandoned me, but you leaned in even with trembling faith. That's why I'm saying it clearly now. I choose you. Again. Not because of performance, not because of perfection, but because I see what others miss. I see the resilience layered beneath your softness. I see the fight behind your quiet obedience. You've been through storms that should have broken you, but instead they revealed what I planted deep within. You don't realize the kind of strength it takes to keep loving while healing, to keep giving while lacking, to keep hoping when everything looks empty. But I do. That kind of endurance isn't learned, it's forged. And I've been present through every fire that shaped it. Your name has never been erased from my plan. Your place has never been removed from my table. No failure disqualified you. No delay disowned you. No weakness pushed you out of my will. You've been carrying guilt for moments you stumbled, but I'm telling you, I never revoked my calling over your life. I didn't flinch when you fell. I didn't retreat when you were unsure. I was there, steady, faithful, patient, waiting for this exact moment to remind you that your story is still sacred. You've been wondering, am I still chosen? And my answer is not vague. It is thunderous in heaven. Yes, you are. I choose you now like I chose you then. Before the pain, before the battle, before the voices tried to write who you are. I choose you for what's ahead, not because of what you've proven, but because of what I've preserved inside of you. You're not the same as before. You're wiser. You're clear. You're grounded. And that makes you even more prepared for the path I've laid out. So don't shrink when I call your name again. Don't question whether you're ready. Don't wait for others to validate what I've already confirmed. I'm not asking for permission to place my mantle back on you. I'm placing it now. Not to repeat old seasons, but to release new ones. You will go where you've never walked. You will speak what you once silenced. You will carry what you once doubted you could hold. And the world will wonder why I picked you. But you'll know. It wasn't because you were the loudest, the strongest, or the most polished. It was because you never stopped coming to me when it would have been easier to walk away. You remained. And now I'm responding by naming you again. Not rejected. Not forgotten. Not background. Chosen. Called. Anointed. Ready. And this is just the beginning of what I'm about to unfold. There were moments you looked at your reflection and didn't recognize the person staring back. Moments where your confidence crumbled under the weight of expectations you couldn't meet. You questioned everything. Your ability, your direction, your identity, even your right to hope again. You began to believe that maybe you were too broken, too inconsistent, too uncertain to carry anything meaningful. You rehearsed your mistakes more than your victories. You hid your potential behind your pain, convinced that your hesitation made you unworthy to lead, to dream, to move forward. But I watched it all, and not once did I pull back from you. I never questioned my decision to call you. I never regretted placing gifts inside your soul. While you were doubting whether you still carried value, I was guarding the treasures I embedded in your spirit, waiting for the right moment to remind you they're still alive. You are not a lost cause. You are not a disappointment. You are not the failure your thoughts tried to convince you of. You are the one I knew would get back up, even after the stumbles, even after the silence, even after the seasons where your faith felt small and your steps felt unsure. My belief in you was never based on your performance. It was built on what I placed within you, and that does not expire. What I see in you hasn't changed. When you buried your dreams out of fear, I preserved them beneath the surface. When you questioned your voice, I kept the message burning. When you stopped believing in the future, I continued shaping it anyway. Because I know who you are beneath the weariness. I know what's inside you, even when you forget. And I know that what I planted is still growing, even when you feel dormant. That flame you thought went out. It's not dead, it's just been waiting for breath. And I am breathing on it now. I'm reigniting the very part of you that once moved with boldness. I'm speaking to the version of you that dared to believe before life dulled your fire. You thought your faith needed to be perfect, but it didn't. It just needed to survive. And it did. Through every disappointment. Through every delay. Through every storm that told you to stop hoping. It remained, even if it flickered. Even if it felt buried beneath shame or discouragement. I see the fight you didn't show anyone. I see the strength you built in silence. I see the way you've had to remind yourself that you're still called, even when no one else affirmed it. And now, I am reminding you of what I never stopped knowing, that you're still the one. The one I chose. The one I anointed. The one I set apart for this very hour. You think others are more qualified, more worthy, more prepared. But what I placed inside you is not something that can be compared. It's not measured by human standards. It's not validated by applause. It's proven in fire. And you, my child, have been through enough fire to know that what remains is real. You may feel unsure, but I'm not. I know exactly what I'm doing with your life. I'm calling you to stand again, not in your own strength, but in mine. I'm calling you to walk boldly again, not because you feel ready, but because I say it's time. Your worth was never in question. Your future is not in doubt. Your purpose is not on pause. And your value is not negotiable. You are still the carrier of what I entrusted you with, and it is needed now more than ever. You are not behind. You are not overlooked. You are not out of place. You are standing at the point of reactivation, and I am the one turning the key. Stand tall again, not because everything makes sense, but because I believe in what I authored in you, and I always will. You stood in the ruins of what didn't work and called it defeat. You looked at the plans that fell apart and labeled them as evidence of your inadequacy. You watched opportunities dissolve and assumed it was your fault, that you missed the mark, that you made the wrong decision, that you somehow disqualified yourself from the life you were meant to live. But today I am confronting that lie with clarity. You did not fail, you were rerouted. What you considered collapse was my intervention. But the life destruction was a second Grigion. You didn't lose your destiny. I was just adjusting your direction. You were moving forward based on what you could see, but I was guiding you based on what I knew. There were places you wanted to reach, but I saw what waited for you there. There were people you wanted to follow, but I saw how they would mishandle your calling. There were doors you knocked on with confidence, but I could see that what lay beyond them would slowly unravel your soul. So I stepped in, not to punish but to preserve. I let the road close, not because you were unworthy, but because the destination had shifted. You were growing, and the plans you once made no longer matched the person I was shaping. What you thought was a mistake was actually mercy in motion. It hurt. It broke your rhythm and challenged your identity. But it didn't ruin your future. If anything, it cleared the path for something purer, deeper, more aligned with your real assignment. You needed that pause. You needed that turn. Without it, you would have built something impressive that lacked eternal weight. I know it's hard to understand from where you stand, but I see the entire canvas. You're staring at a single brushstroke, and trying to interpret the whole masterpiece. I know exactly how to take the pieces that didn't work and rearrange them into a greater fulfillment than you imagined. You are not disqualified. You are not discarded. You are being redirected. There's a difference between failure and formation. You were never abandoned. You were being realigned. The loss was loud, but the lesson was louder. And now, with clearer vision and deeper roots, I am guiding you back to what I originally designed. You don't need to rebuild from scratch. You only need to return to the path I carved before the noise pulled you away. You never stepped out of my reach. You never drifted beyond redemption. I've been walking beside you, even through the disappointment you blamed on yourself. And now I'm leading you back, not to shame you, but to restore you. I'm reclaiming the ground you thought you forfeited. I'm redeeming the time you thought you wasted. I'm reigniting the passion you thought had died. And I'm doing it with tenderness, not condemnation. Because I never saw you as a failure. I saw you as a fighter. You kept showing up, even when it felt pointless. You kept praying, even through numbness. You kept believing, even when doubt shadowed your thoughts. That kind of faith doesn't go unnoticed. That kind of resilience doesn't go unrewarded. You passed tests you didn't even realize you were taking. And now the next chapter begins, not as a continuation of shame, but as a testimony of what happens when purpose is protected by divine detours. You didn't lose. You learned. You didn't fall apart. You fell into grace. I am calling you back to the very reason you were created. I am putting your feet back on the path that fits the shape of your soul. And what's ahead will not resemble what's behind. The pain prepared you. The closed doors purified you. The detour deepened you. And now, what was delayed is ready to unfold. Let go of the label of failure. It never belonged to you. Pick up the truth instead. You were redirected to rise. And the rise starts now. You've carried the weight of slowness like a cloak draped over your shoulders, convinced it was a sign of neglect. You watched seasons pass, prayed with persistence, and waited without seeing the movement your heart was desperate for. The days felt heavy with unanswered hope, and it seemed like others were being launched while you remained still, hidden in waiting rooms you didn't choose. Time began to feel like a punishment, and the stillness began to whisper lies that maybe you were forgotten, maybe I changed my mind, maybe the doors would never open again. But I speak to you now. Every moment that appeared motionless was filled with my intention. You saw nothing shifting, but I was rearranging foundations beneath the surface. You felt stuck, but I was positioning you with precision. You assumed you were behind, but I was preserving your momentum for the exact moment that could carry the weight of what I've prepared. You didn't waste time. You were being prepared for acceleration. I didn't slow you down to torment you. I slowed the process to make the outcome unstoppable. I was stretching your endurance, developing your depth, training your eyes to see beyond immediate satisfaction. If I had given you everything too soon, the weight of it would have crushed what I was trying to cultivate inside of you. So I delayed, not because you lacked worth, but because I needed the maturity in you to match the magnitude of what I was sending. You thought it was denial. It was development. You thought you were being bypassed. You were being refined. And now, that season is shifting. What was slow is about to move swiftly. What was paused is about to gain velocity. What took years to build will suddenly bloom in ways that seem unnatural to human understanding. But nothing about this is random. It is heaven's timing unlocking what was held until the right moment, and that moment is now. I'm removing the resistance that kept the flow down. I'm loosening the chains that held progress in suspense. I'm igniting the dry places that have waited long for fire. You won't have to force this. It will unfold with grace and power. What you couldn't make happen through striving will now manifest through alignment. Your pace will increase, but not at the cost of your peace. Your results will multiply, but not through manipulation. Your impact will expand, but not through exhaustion. This acceleration is not birthed in chaos. It is the reward of obedience through seasons of silence. You remained faithful when there was nothing to show for it. You worshiped when doors stayed shut. You stayed present when results didn't reflect your efforts. And now, I'm redeeming every hour you thought was wasted. I'm restoring the years that felt dry and forgotten. This is not a catch-up. It's a divine release. I'm causing what once lagged to leap forward. I'm infusing speed into assignments that once crawled. I'm accelerating healing, provision, clarity, and fulfillment. Relationships that were strained will be mended in moments. Ideas that seemed dormant will awaken with sudden clarity. Gifts that were overlooked will now draw attention without striving. This is not momentum born of man. It is the hand of your God clearing the path, opening the heavens, and speaking now over what once felt like not yet. You'll look back and struggle to explain how quickly everything turned. But you will know, it was me. It was always me. The delay wasn't punishment, it was protection. The slow pace wasn't neglect, it was nurturing. And the wait was never wasted, it was divine incubation. What I've planted in you has reached maturity. And now, you're not just stepping forward, you're being launched. You'll walk through days that feel like years of favor compacted into hours. And it won't break you, because the waiting forged the character to sustain what's coming. So don't fear the speed. You've been prepared. Don't shrink from the shift. You've been anointed. Don't question whether it's real. It is. And this is only the beginning of what acceleration looks like in my hands. They tried to mute your influence before it ever matured. They attacked your confidence when your voice was just beginning to form. They sowed lies into your identity to make you question your calling, hoping you'd shrink before your sound could rise. Every time you spoke truth, something pushed back harder. Every time you moved in obedience, warfare increased. You were made to release something powerful, and that's why opposition met you at every turn. You weren't attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because your voice carries authority that darkness cannot tolerate. Hell doesn't target silence, it targets sound. You felt the pressure to stay quiet, to minimize your expression, to dim your intensity, to water down what burns in you. But I must speak this to you now, that battle wasn't random. It was strategic. The enemy feared what would happen the moment you truly step into your voice. So he tried to steal it before it matured. He tried to bury it beneath insecurity, religious shame, betrayal, comparison, and rejection. But what he buried, I preserved. What he silenced, I protected. And what he fought against, I'm now releasing with fire. Your voice is not just returning, it's rising. And it's coming back with volume that shakes strongholds and awakens sleepers. I'm not giving you words just to speak. I'm giving you declarations that shift spiritual atmospheres. I'm not restoring your voice just for communication, I'm anointing it for confrontation. You were never meant to blend in. You were designed to sound like thunder in quiet places. You were created to carry a sound that breaks cycles, exposes deception, and pierces the heart of confusion. The enemy hoped you would grow too discouraged to ever speak again, but I've used his pressure to deepen your resonance. You don't just have volume, you now carry weight. Your voice will no longer echo in empty rooms. It will land in the spirit of those bound by fear and call them into freedom. It will ring in the hearts of those asleep in their assignment and provoke awakening. What once trembled when you whispered will now shake when you speak. Because I've placed a roar in your lungs. Not born of pride, not born of ambition, born of fire, born of worship in the wilderness, born of tears cried in silence, born of scriptures read with trembling hands, born of nights where you chose praise over quitting. And now, that sound cannot be hidden any longer. You won't need to beg for platforms. I'll bring the platforms to you. You won't need to force people to listen. The anointing on your words will arrest their attention. You won't have to explain why you're speaking now. The weight of your voice will justify itself. I'm removing the fear that once gripped your throat. I'm healing the trauma tied to past silencing. I'm cutting every lie that said, "You're too much, you're not enough, or no one wants to hear you." I want to hear you. And I've waited for this moment. I've waited for the courage to rise again, not as a shout of defiance, but as a sound of surrender, bold, steady, holy. You will not apologize for your sound. You will not dilute your truth to make others comfortable. You will not hold back what I've poured into you simply because others don't understand the depth of it. I've chosen your mouth to speak what others won't. I've trusted your heart to carry messages others are afraid to deliver. And I will go before you, softening the soil, breaking the resistance, preparing the ears. When you open your mouth, I will fill it. When you release the word, I will confirm it. When you declare truth, I will defend it. No force will stop what I've released through you. Because this is not just your voice anymore, it is heaven's. And it's about to resound. There's a reason why you were overlooked, passed by, and unseen in places where others flourished. It wasn't because you lacked value. It wasn't because you were unprepared. It wasn't because you didn't try hard enough. I kept you concealed, intentionally, deliberately, for a purpose much higher than man's approval. You looked around and saw others elevated, celebrated, pushed forward into visibility while you remained behind the scenes, wondering if anyone even noticed the weight you carried in silence. What felt like rejection was actually divine concealment. I didn't hide you to punish you. I hid you to protect the oil. Because what I was forming in you required a sanctuary of stillness, far from premature exposure. There were places you wanted to step into that would have drained you too soon. There were platforms you longed to stand on, but they couldn't carry the weight of what I'm releasing through you now. So I placed a covering over your life, not to suppress you, but to refine you. And in that place of hiddenness, I watched as you served without recognition, gave without applause, built without support, stayed faithful without followers. That kind of obedience is not ignored in heaven. That kind of sacrifice cannot stay hidden forever. What I do in secret, I reward openly, and this is the hour where the curtain begins to part. You're not stepping into the spotlight of man's making. You're stepping into the light of divine timing. The kind of revealing I'm orchestrating isn't rooted in fame. It's born in function. You won't be exposed to be admired. You will be revealed to be used. Because what's inside you is too potent to remain buried any longer. I'm not just opening eyes to see you. I'm opening doors that were sealed shut until this moment. And when you walk through them, you won't need to introduce yourself. Your authenticity will speak louder than any resume. The anointing I've cultivated in quiet places will be the signal that announces your arrival. You won't have to compete. You won't have to push. You won't have to pretend. The same God who concealed you is now revealing you, and I do not bring anything into the light that is not ready. I've tested your heart in obscurity. I've shaped your character in silence. I've strengthened your spirit through loneliness. And now, what was once unseen will carry a weight that cannot be ignored. The people who bypassed you won't understand how you emerged with so much power. They'll ask, where did you come from? But I'll know the truth. You came from the secret place. You were formed in the furnace they never saw. You were built in the hours no one documented. And that's what makes your rise different. This isn't a trend. It's a release. This isn't overnight success. It's divine unveiling. I'm not elevating an image. I'm revealing a vessel. Yielded, humbled, fire-tested, truth-bearing vessel. And as you step into the places I've prepared, don't shrink. Don't second-guess. Don't apologize. You are not stepping in on your own. You are walking in with authority backed by heaven. I've made space for your sound. I've cleared the way for your hands to build. I've aligned divine appointments that have waited for your yes. And now that you said it, I'm saying mine too. Go forth. I'm removing the final layer of concealment. The veil is lifting. The time of hiding is complete. You've passed the test of obscurity. Now walk boldly into the light that reveals not just who you are, but who sent you. And as you do, remember, the same presence that kept you in the secret place is going with you into every public space. My glory is upon you, and nothing can dim what I am now choosing to display. They saw you fall and assumed you were finished. They measured your process by temporary setbacks, not knowing I was only getting started. The critics gathered when your plans unraveled. The doubters whispered when your doors didn't open. They marked you by the chapter they walked in on, never realizing the author had more pages to turn. What they called failure, I was using as foundation. What they called final, I was using as fuel. You've been carrying the weight of being misunderstood, not just by strangers, but by people who once claimed to be close. They saw your tears but never understood your assignment. They heard your silence but never recognized the war inside your heart. And yet, through it all, you endured. You didn't give up, even when you wanted to. You didn't quit, even when giving up felt justified. You stayed, even when staying cost you your comfort. And because of that, I'm stepping into your story, not as an observer, but as the one writing the next act. They think they know how this ends. They think the low point you just came through is your legacy. But I never write endings at the bottom. I write miracles in the middle. I specialize in scenes that don't make sense until the light breaks through. I'm the God who interrupts what the world thought was over and rewrites the narrative with glory. And now, I'm doing it in you. Not just to prove a point, but to fulfill a promise. This story isn't about vindication for your enemies, it's about validation of my word. I spoke things over you that haven't expired. I planted dreams that haven't decayed. I breathed purpose into your bones, and no disappointment has the authority to cancel what I authored. You thought the delay erased the calling. It didn't. You thought the heartbreak erased the momentum. It didn't. You thought the breakdown disqualified you. It didn't. In fact, it made the testimony stronger. Because now, when I lift you, it won't be by your own effort. It will be obvious that heaven stepped in. I'm turning the very page they thought would be blank into the chapter that shifts the atmosphere. What was stagnant will become sacred. What was mocked will be marveled. What was dismissed will become the doorway through which I display my power. I'm not just giving you a comeback. I'm giving you a complete rewrite of the narrative. You're not returning to the same position. You're being elevated into a realm they never expected you to enter. The very ones who assumed your voice had gone silent will hear it thunder with fresh authority. You don't have to defend yourself. I'm your defense. You don't have to explain your journey. I'm the witness who never missed a moment. You don't have to force the spotlight. I've already scheduled the reveal. And when it happens, it won't just bless you. It will awaken those who gave up on their own story, thinking they were too far gone. Your resurrection will become a prophetic message to others, that I still breathe life into dry bones, that I still bring beauty from ashes, that I still finish what I start. So stand tall, even if your legs still shake. Walk forward, even if your pace is slow. Lift your head, even if your heart still mends. Because the pen is still in my hand, and this next part of your life will silence every doubt. This is where I take over the script. This is where the plot bends upward. This is where I prove that I've been present the whole time, writing quietly in the background. You are not at your end. You are at your unveiling. And what I've written next will turn heads, touch hearts, and shift atmospheres. Because I'm not finished. And I never will be until what I spoke becomes what you live. I watched you wonder why things slowed down while others seemed to accelerate. You questioned why the spotlight passed over you, why your efforts didn't yield quick rewards, why doors opened for others but stayed shut for you. You wrestled with the ache of invisibility, not because you craved fame, but because you longed to feel seen, understood, and valued. And when it didn't come, you started to believe the lie that you were somehow overlooked, as if I misplaced your name, skipped your number, or rerouted your calling to someone else. But today, I'm lifting that lie off of you like a heavy garment. You were never abandoned. You were preserved. You were held back not because you lacked readiness, but because what you're carrying is not ordinary, and it couldn't be exposed too early. There's a difference between being forgotten and being hidden. The world may confuse the two, but I do not. I didn't put you in delay. I placed you in divine holding. While others ran ahead, I was wrapping you in protection. While they sprinted toward platforms, I was anchoring your character beneath the surface. Because what I'm building in you is not for a moment. It's for generations. And to sustain something that big, I had to take my time. I shielded you from connections that would have corrupted your clarity. I separated you from relationships that would have drained your destiny. I slowed the pace so your roots would run deep enough to survive the storms your calling would eventually attract. You weren't left behind. You were being carefully crafted, molded in silence, formed in obscurity, forged in waiting. You've been carrying things in your spirit for years that haven't had an outlet. Visions that burned, words that stirred, passion that kept you awake at night. And you've asked me more than once, why would you give me something I can't release yet? But what you didn't see was how I was increasing the potency of your gift by keeping it covered. When something precious is buried in the earth, it doesn't die, it transforms. It takes root. It draws from deep wells. And when it finally breaks through the surface, it carries strength far beyond anything visible. That's what I've been doing in you. I've been preparing you for release that doesn't just excite people, it changes them. What you carry will confront chains, not just inspire applause. What flows from you will awaken slumbering hearts, not just entertain bored ones. And for that kind of impact, preservation was not optional, it was essential. Now, the time of unveiling is drawing near. A wind is shifting. The spiritual temperature is rising. You can feel it, even if you can't explain it. That stirring inside you is not anxiety, it's alignment. It's your spirit sensing that the moment it was preserved for is approaching. And when it arrives, you won't need to force your way forward. I will lead you out with clarity. I will position you with precision. I will hide you without striving. Because what I preserved will now speak for itself. You won't need to convince anyone you're ready. Your consistency in the hidden place has already proven that. You won't need to market your worth. I've already sealed your identity. You won't need to fight for a seat at the table. I've been building the table around your assignment. And as you step into the open, don't carry shame from seasons of silence. Don't carry guilt from years you thought were wasted. Don't mourn the time you spent waiting. Honor it. That waiting became the womb of wisdom. That silence became the sanctuary of strength. That preservation is what protected your purity. And now, what emerges from you will be unmistakably mine. You were never forgotten. You were hidden in my heart. And now, as the veil lifts, you'll understand that every pause had purpose. Every delay carried destiny. Every quiet season was preparing you to speak with fire. I have not forgotten you. I've preserved you, and now I'm releasing you. This is your time. There were connections you tried to hold together with everything you had. You gave your heart, your energy, your loyalty, only to watch those relationships unravel slowly, painfully, and sometimes without explanation. It shook you. It made you question your worth. You searched for where you went wrong, how you could have loved better, how you could have fixed what fell apart. But I need you to hear this with clarity today. It wasn't rejection. It was removal. I stepped in, not to isolate you, but to protect what I'm building through you. Because not everyone has the capacity to carry the weight of your calling. Not every voice deserves a front row seat in your transformation. And not every companion from your past was meant to follow you into your future. You saw it as loss, but I saw it as alignment. I saw the quiet competition they hid behind compliments. I saw how your light made them uncomfortable. I saw how your hunger for me made them settle deeper into complacency. You wanted peace, but you kept tying yourself to people who only produced confusion. You wanted purpose, but you surrounded yourself with those who feared your growth. And so I had to step in. Not because I was punishing them or punishing you, but because where I'm taking you requires unity, purity, and strength, not connection based on history or convenience. You needed space to breathe again. You needed space to heal without constantly being pulled back into cycles of misunderstanding and emotional exhaustion. You needed room to listen for my voice without having it drowned out by noise that only fueled your insecurity. And so, I allowed the detachment. I didn't cause their decisions, but I used them. I didn't force their silence, but I worked through it. Because sometimes, the exit of people becomes the entrance of clarity. When they left, your ears opened. When they withdrew, your spirit awakened. And when you finally stopped chasing what I was removing, I began positioning what you truly needed. I'm not just removing people, I'm preparing replacements. But not just any replacements, ones that are healthy, aligned, divinely connected. People who won't compete with your anointing but will celebrate it. People who don't try to change you but walk with you. People who carry wisdom without manipulation, love without condition, vision without insecurity. I'm sending voices who speak life into your assignment, not doubt into your direction. I'm sending allies, not just acquaintances. Builders, not spectators. Intercessors, not opportunists. And when they come, you won't have to question their loyalty. Their fruit will reveal their purpose. But I had to make room first. You can't carry old weight into a new season. I had to strip away the attachments that drained you, the partnerships that confused you, the friendships that served a version of you that no longer exists. That's why the departure hurt so deeply, because you were trying to hold on to what I was gently loosening from your grip. But now that it's gone, I can finally place what belongs. Don't look back with resentment. Forgive freely. Release the offense. Let go of the explanations you never received. I saw everything. I took note of every tear. I kept record of how you loved even when it wasn't returned. And now I'm honoring that. I'm bringing you into a new circle, not just for companionship, but for alignment. Strategic relationships that will cover you in prayer, challenge you in truth, and walk with you through growth. You won't have to beg for support. It will come naturally. You won't have to shrink to stay accepted. You'll finally be seen for who you really are. And when that circle forms, you'll understand why I had to remove what I did. You'll thank me for the silence that once felt so loud. You'll see that I wasn't breaking you. I was clearing the atmosphere. Because you can't rise while dragging dead weight. You can't pour deeply while constantly bleeding. I love you too much to let you settle for people who were never meant to carry the next version of you. I'm building something holy around you now. And it starts with who stands beside you next. They thought they knew you based on fragments. They watched pieces of your life and rushed to conclusions. They assigned labels that didn't come from me. Labels that tried to define you by your pain, your past, or your process. Some only saw your mistakes and never noticed your transformation. Some judged your silence and never discerned your suffering. Others took your humility as weakness, your gentleness as lack of power, your boundaries as rebellion. You've been boxed in by human perspective, spoken about in rooms you weren't in, and reduced by those who couldn't comprehend the weight of what you carry. And I've watched it all, not from a distance, but from deep within the tension of your soul. You've cried tears over being misread. You've held your tongue when you could have defended yourself. You've endured injustice, not because you were passive, but because you trusted me to be your witness. And now, I'm speaking what others were never qualified to say. You are more than what they called you. What the world labeled doesn't define your identity. What people assume doesn't determine your worth. I've never referred to you by your failures. I've never called you by your worst moment. I don't use shame to speak over my children. I use destiny. And from the beginning, I've called you by a name no one else knows. Not the name given by family. Not the reputation spoken by critics. Not the title defined by culture. A name formed in heaven. A name written in my book. A name whispered in secret places when you had no audience but me. I named you when no one was clapping. I saw you when you were hidden. I assigned identity to you before they assigned opinions to you. And that name carries your real purpose, not their projection. You've tried to prove yourself to people who never took the time to understand you. You've over-explained to those who had already made up their minds. You've shrunk yourself to fit into environments that were too small for your spirit. But no more. I'm breaking off every false label. I'm tearing down every word curse. I'm dismantling every agreement you unknowingly made with lies about your worth. Because the name I've given you doesn't carry shame. It carries authority. It doesn't carry fear. It carries identity. It doesn't carry performance. It carries inheritance. You don't need to perform for love anymore. You don't need to earn acceptance. You don't need to compromise to be chosen. You already are. I saw the strength it took to keep walking when they misunderstood your silence. I watched you love deeply even when they questioned your motives. I honored the integrity you showed while being falsely accused. I measured the purity of your intentions while others distorted your actions. And I never once doubted who you are. I am not confused by your process. I am not intimidated by your struggle. I am not distant from your heartache. I am the one who knows you fully and still calls you forward. This is not just about healing from what they said. This is about stepping into who you've always been beneath the surface. You are not too broken. You are not too different. You are not too intense, too emotional, too sensitive, too bold. You are exactly who I created you to be, and that identity is being restored now. I am giving you back what the world tried to strip away. Your name, your voice, your clarity, your freedom. And when I call you, I don't call the version shaped by trauma, I call the version shaped by my hand. So stop trying to convince those who never cared to know you. Stop waiting for validation from voices I never sent. You don't need their permission to be who I called you to be. You don't need their agreement to move forward. I've placed my seal on you, and it overrides every false label. From this moment forward, walk like someone who knows who they are. Speak like someone who's no longer apologizing for being chosen. Live like someone who's heard heaven call their name, because it's exactly what just happened, and no one can rename what I've already claimed. You've been wondering why the intensity increased. Why, the closer you got to peace, the more chaos erupted around you. Why the moment you started moving forward, distractions multiplied. Why battles came from angles you never expected, through people you trusted, thoughts you overcame, and circumstances that shifted without warning. You've questioned if you opened a door you shouldn't have. You've wondered if you missed something in the spirit. You've replayed your prayers, trying to find the source of the sudden pressure. But I want you to see clearly now. You are not under attack because you're weak. You're under attack because you're carrying weight. The atmosphere around you is reacting to what I've placed inside of you. Hell doesn't rise against what poses no threat. The resistance didn't come because you did something wrong. It came because you're positioned to do something right. The enemy saw your movement, your surrender, your hunger, your growth, and he launched an assault not to destroy you, but to distract you from the breakthrough you were already stepping into. This is not random warfare. It is strategic, aimed to make you shrink back before the release I've ordained. But what the enemy didn't expect is how much you've changed. You don't panic the way you used to. You don't collapse under pressure like before. You've been trained in the dark. You've been forged through fire. You've been refined through private tears and silent battles. And now, even when your emotions shake, your spirit stands tall. You've developed a resilience that cannot be undone, not because of your strength, but because of my spirit rising within you. This battle is different, not because it's easier, but because you're stronger. You've seen enough to recognize the signs. You've endured enough to know when the pressure increases. So does the oil. This warfare is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of transition. You're not going backwards. You're pushing through resistance that always comes right before promotion. When heaven begins to pour something fresh, hell tries to dam up the flow. But it cannot stop what I've ordained. The very attacks formed against you will become the evidence of what I was preparing to launch through you. The very areas that were targeted are the exact places I'm about to demonstrate my glory. Where the battle raged most fiercely, my power will fall most heavily. I have not abandoned you in this. I have armed you for it. You've been equipped with weapons not of this world. Worship has become your warfare. Truth has become your shield. Surrender has become your sword. You don't need to figure everything out. You need to hold your position. You don't need to fight for victory. You're fighting from it. Stand your ground. Speak what I've already promised. Rest in the assurance that this storm is temporary, but the strength you're gaining from it will be permanent. Here's a reason the pressure has been unrelenting. The calling on your life is not common. The assignment attached to you carries eternal weight. What I'm about to do through you will shake atmospheres, disrupt patterns, and break cycles that have existed for generations. That kind of movement attracts attention, both from heaven and from hell. But do not fear. I'm surrounding you. I've assigned angels to you. I've placed fire around your borders. You're not exposed. You're covered. You're not alone. You're held. And even now, while you can't see it yet, the enemy is already retreating. He's not afraid of you. He's afraid of who backs you. So lift your head, even while the battle rages. Praise me in the middle of what you don't understand. Because this is not your undoing. It's your unveiling. This is not collapse. It's birth. This is not chaos. It's the last shaking before the shift. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. And the warfare you've been facing is the final confirmation that the glory you've been waiting for is about to descend. You've heard the whispers that you're too quiet, too still, too uncertain, too passive. They looked at your rest and mistook it for laziness. They saw your pause and labeled it as fear. They assumed your silence meant surrender, your stillness meant weakness, and your waiting meant nothing was happening. But what they failed to see was what I was doing behind the veil. While they mocked your stillness, I was meeting you in it. While they moved fast in shallow waters, you stood anchored in the deep. While they chased noise and applause, you leaned into my whisper. And now, I'm speaking directly into the heart of your stillness, not to end it in shame, but to reveal what I was doing inside of it. Stillness has never been a sign of retreat. It's been a sign of strategy. When I call my people to pause, it is never wasted. It is preparation wrapped in quiet. It is strengthening disguised as silence. The world doesn't understand it, but heaven recognizes it. I hid you not because you lacked courage, but because you were being calibrated. I slowed your pace not because you were falling behind, but because I was adjusting your position for a higher assignment. Stillness taught you how to hear me without the interference. It trained your ears to know the difference between good ideas and divine instruction. It shaped your discernment so you wouldn't follow every open door, only the ones I carved. They couldn't see the internal weight that was being built, the character I was forming, the resolve I was hardening, the healing I was doing beneath the surface. They saw you standing still and thought you were stuck, but you were becoming rooted. You weren't inactive, you were immovable. And now, the roots you formed will allow you to carry what others can't. Because you didn't rush, you'll have the stamina to outlast the storm. Because you didn't skip the quiet, you'll have the clarity to walk with boldness when others grow confused. Because you didn't chase applause, you'll recognize the counterfeit before it even reaches your ears. Stillness trains your spirit to walk differently. You don't need external approval to feel internal peace. You don't require crowds to validate your calling. You don't fear waiting anymore because you've met me there. And what I gave you in that stillness cannot be taken, is etched into your identity. I taught you how to lead from rest, how to respond without reacting, how to pray without striving, and how to trust even when I seem silent. That kind of spiritual posture is rare, and now, It's about to be revealed as power. They may not understand it even now. They may still wonder how someone who didn't fight for attention is about to be placed at the center of my move. But that's the beauty of my strategy. I choose the ones who were overlooked because they were listening. I raise up the ones who stood still when others ran. I breathe on those who surrendered instead of scrambling. You didn't slow down. You were tuned in. And what you received in that stillness is more valuable than anything they chased. I am now calling you to move, but not like before. You're not reacting from fear. You're responding from peace. You're not rushing to prove anything. You're flowing from confidence built in quiet places. You're not climbing. You're being lifted. The stillness built a structure in your soul that cannot be shaken. You don't panic like you used to. You don't chase like you once did. You don't collapse when the pressure rises. You've been with me. And that time spent in the stillness is now becoming your foundation for the storm ahead. So don't apologize for being slow to speak. Don't regret the seasons you stepped back. Don't resent the solitude. It was sacred. You didn't lose ground. You gained strength. And now, I'm revealing the power of a life that listened. Those who laughed will soon listen. Those who overlooked will soon wonder. And you, the one who waited, will now walk with a presence that only comes from time spent at my feet. The stillness was never empty. It was full of me. And now, so are you. You sat in rooms where no one checked on you, walked through days when your phone didn't ring, laid your head down at night wondering if anyone noticed your absence. You poured into people who never poured back. You showed up for others, but when your soul was bleeding, the support you gave so freely was nowhere to be found. The silence felt loud. The absence of companionship pierced deeper than words could describe. And in those quiet places, you began to wonder if there was something wrong with you, if your presence was forgettable, your value invisible, or your voice unneeded. But I must tell you now, what you called loneliness, I called consecration. You were not abandoned. You were set apart. I pulled you out of places that dulled your discernment. I separated you from environments that suffocated your sensitivity to my spirit. I allowed you to walk through isolation, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because what I'm raising you into could never be cultivated in constant company. I needed your ears free from noise. I needed your spirit unhindered by people-pleasing. I needed your time reclaimed from distractions that disguised themselves as support. So I drew you away, not to starve you of connection, but to teach you the difference between presence and dependence. I wanted you to know how to recognize my voice without needing a crowd to confirm it. You didn't lose your circle. I removed what couldn't go with you. Not everyone has the capacity to walk with you where you're going. Not every relationship can survive the weight of a mantle. And you were never meant to carry this next level of anointing while constantly explaining your journey to those who only saw the surface. So I simplified your surroundings. I taught you how to feast with me alone. I showed you that you don't need an audience to be effective. You needed to feel the ache of solitude to learn that your intimacy with me would always sustain you more than shallow proximity with people. And what you thought was lost time, I was redeeming with purpose. While others were building networks, I was building your inner man. While they chased validation, I rooted your confidence in my voice. While they gathered numbers, I sharpened your discernment. You've been learning to lead without needing to be seen. You've been developing authority in hidden places where applause can't reach and performance can't survive. And now that season of sacred isolation has accomplished its purpose, it's made you unshakable. You don't need constant reassurance now. You don't seek out noise to avoid reflection. You're not intimidated by silence anymore. You've been with me, and it shows. You walk differently. You hear differently. You pray from a place of knowing rather than begging. You move from revelation instead of reaction. That's the fruit of your alone time. That's what was being formed while you questioned your relevance. I was carving something eternal in you. Something deeper than charisma, deeper than talent, deeper than strategy, a spirit that cannot be manipulated, a foundation that cannot be shaken. And now, I'm opening doors, not because you shouted the loudest, but because you were willing to be silent when I called you away. I'm aligning the right people, not just to walk with you, but to run beside you. I'm assigning relationships that match your maturity, covenant connections that will compete with you, divine companions that won't misunderstand your depth. You won't have to explain why you've changed. They'll recognize the anointing and respect the cost. And you won't question your belonging anymore. You'll know the loneliness had purpose. So stand tall. Your time in the shadows wasn't a detour. It was divine design. It wasn't isolation, it was incubation. And the one who walked alone will now walk in authority. The one who felt forgotten will now be positioned. The one who was hidden will now be released, not because they demanded it, but because they were faithful when no one else was watching. I didn't leave you in that season. I led you through it. And now, you'll see why it had to be just me and you. So that when the doors open, you never forget who held them in place. You watch things slip through your hands that you never imagined losing. Opportunities that once seemed certain vanished without warning. Relationships you poured into were ripped away without closure. Time, years even, disappeared into seasons you can't explain, and all that remained was the ache of betrayal and the whisper that maybe it was your fault. They took more than just things. They took trust. They walked away with pieces of your heart, your stability, your reputation, your strength. And for too long, you assumed what was taken was none for good. But I have seen every theft. I have counted every loss. And I speak now with holy justice. I am restoring all of it. Not just pieces. Not just some. All of it. Every moment you labored without return. Every sacrifice they dismissed. Every yes that cost you more than they knew. I saw how you kept walking even when you were bleeding inside. I saw how you stayed silent while others distorted your name. I watched you take the high road when everything in you wanted to speak out. And now, I'm stepping in, not just to bring comfort, but to bring restoration. What they tried to destroy is being rebuilt by my own hand. What they thought was buried is about to rise in power. This isn't just about compensation. It's about transformation. I'm not simply giving back what was taken. I'm multiplying it. I'm releasing a version of what you lost that is purified, elevated, and protected. You thought the enemy had the final word when they walk away with what belonged to you. But this is my response. Double. Double for your shame. Double for the nights you questioned your identity. Double for the years you felt unseen. Double for the days you could have retaliated, but instead you chose peace. This kind of restoration doesn't come from human hands, it flows from my throne. And with the return comes something more sacred than material: dignity. The internal part of you that was crushed by humiliation, dishonor, and false accusation is being healed right now. You don't need to defend yourself anymore. You don't need to keep rehearsing what they did. You don't need to relive the pain to prove the depth of it. I was there when it happened. I was there when no one else believed you. I was there when your silence was misinterpreted. And now, I am defending you in ways that man cannot. I'm restoring your name in rooms where they tried to erase it. I'm rewriting narratives they tried to twist. I'm placing you back in position, not because you fought for it, but because you remained faithful even after it was stolen. You thought you lost too much to recover. But I specialize in impossible redemptions. I don't just make things new, I make them better. I give beauty where only ashes remain. I create songs out of silence. I resurrect what was never supposed to breathe again. And that's exactly what I'm doing with your story. Every closed chapter, every painful page, I'm using it. You don't need to skip over those parts. I'm going to use them as the very proof of my faithfulness. You will not look like what you've been through. You will not carry the bitterness of what they did. You will walk with grace, not because it didn't hurt, but because I healed it. and what's coming next will silence every lie. I'm restoring not just to bless you, but to declare through your life that I am a God who makes wrong things right. You didn't miss your moment. You didn't lose your inheritance. You didn't forfeit your future. It was delayed, not denied. It was preserved, not stolen. It's being returned, not replaced. And as I return it, I'm restoring you, too, mind, heart, voice, and vision. The pain did not win. The enemy did not win. I win. And when I win, you rise. You've been wondering why doors that should have opened by now are still sealed. Why you've done everything right, prayed, waited, prepared, obeyed, and yet things remain stuck, stagnant, or slower than your faith expected. You've questioned if you missed a step. You silently battled guilt, asking if maybe you weren't holy enough, bold enough, loud enough in your belief. But I need you to hear me clearly now. The delay is not your fault. The delay is not a punishment. The delay is protection. Because behind some of those doors was warfare that you weren't meant to wrestle with. Hidden traps were waiting in places that looked like blessings. Connections that appeared promising were camouflaged distractions sent to drain you, not promote you. So I stepped in, not to harm you, but to hold you. I delayed you not to frustrate you, but to preserve you. There are things you prayed for that I refused to release prematurely because I love you too deeply to let your destiny be damaged by timing that wasn't yours. You were not being ignored. You were being guarded. And now, the moment is shifting. What was once a barrier is being dissolved. What was once locked is trembling under my command. The obstruction is not permanent. I'm lifting it. There were spirits assigned to sabotage your confidence through extended silence. Demonic forces that tried to steal your peace by making you feel forgotten. But I allowed just enough silence to mature your discernment. I allowed just enough resistance to stretch your roots deeper in me. And now that you've been planted, not potted, now that your identity is no longer based on applause or visible progress, I can release you forward. Not into pressure, but into purpose. Not into confusion, but into clarity. Not into delay, but into divine flow. Let me tell you this. Not every locked door is from the enemy. Some were my doing. I closed them because they weren't built for you. I shut them because what was inside would have poisoned your calling. I withheld access so you wouldn't waste oil on people who were only drawn to your light but never carried your burden. You cried over rooms that weren't even meant to host your assignment. But now, I'm bringing you into prepared space, territory that won't just tolerate you but will birth through you. And when it opens this time, you won't have to force it. You won't have to beg for it. You won't even have to over-explain yourself. It will open because I said it's time. Every hindrance that stood in your path is about to be moved with a word. Every unseen resistance, the kind that wore you down emotionally without an explanation, is being broken off. I'm clearing the spiritual traffic. What once took years will now take weeks. What months required struggle will now happen through surrender. This is not acceleration that will exhaust you. It's movement that will free you. You're about to walk into things that were once too heavy to carry. But now, you're ready, because you trusted me even when you didn't understand. And I need you to remember this truth. You are not behind. The world may measure success by speed, but I shape destiny by obedience. While others raced, you were refined. While others ran ahead, you were rooted. And now, the difference will be undeniable. Because what they built through ambition, you will receive by alignment. And what they chased, I'm placing directly in your hands, not because of works, but because of grace. You waited well, even when no one noticed. You've prayed consistently, even when your voice felt small. You obeyed in private, even when it cost you public recognition. And now, I'm honoring your posture with breakthroughs that will silence every doubt. The delay was not the end of your story. It was a protection of your story. And now that the delay has fulfilled its purpose, I'm removing it. They thought your silence meant surrender. They assumed your quiet seasons meant you lacked strength. They mistook your hidden years for wasted ones, unaware that I was forming a warrior beneath the stillness. What they didn't see, I was shaping. What they couldn't measure, I was multiplying. And now, the time has come for the unveiling. Not for the sake of attention, but for the fulfillment of my word spoken over your life. What you went through privately, the weeping, the wrestling, the waiting, I am about to use publicly. They didn't know how many nights you carried the weight of disappointment and still worshipped me with trembling hands. They didn't hear your groans when the pain was too loud for words. They didn't notice your loyalty when no one else stood beside you. But I did. I recorded every tear. I counted every sacrifice. And now, I'm turning the very battles they mocked into the reason. They will marvel. I will not allow your crushing to be wasted. I will not allow their false assumptions to define your identity. Because what I placed inside you wasn't meant to be immediately recognized, it was meant to be fully revealed. I had to keep you hidden while I refined you. I had to withhold the spotlight until your character could carry the oil. Exposure before preparation leads to collapse. That's why I allowed you to be overlooked. Not to punish you, but to protect you. And now that your roots are deep and your posture is firm, I am ready to introduce you in a way that silences every doubt they had about you. But make no mistake, this isn't about proving them wrong. This is about proving my word right. I don't need you to fight their unbelief. I just need you to walk forward boldly when I open the way. You've been misunderstood not because you were wrong, but because your anointing intimidated their comfort zones. You didn't fit in, not because you lacked value, but because your calling couldn't be boxed in their small expectations. The room rejected you because it was never your destination. The platform resisted you because it was too small for what I'm birthing through you. Stop grieving over what didn't receive you. You weren't sent there for applause. You were sent there to plant seeds for harvests you couldn't see yet. Now, the shift begins. I'm placing you in position without requiring anyone's permission. No vote. No validation. No explanation. Yes, obedience. What I've taught you in the shadows will speak louder than anything you could have said on your own. You won't need to defend your process. Your fruit will testify for you. The very ones who said, "You'll never make it," will have no choice but to witness what I'm about to release through your life. They will realize it was never about status. It was about stewardship. It was never about competition. It was about consecration. And I chose you because you didn't chase the spotlight. You chased my heart. So now, I am lifting the curtain. I'm revealing what I built in the wilderness. And the unveiling won't look like performance. It will look like peace. It won't feel like pressure. It will feel like power. You will step into rooms where your name was once ignored and speak with authority because I sent you, not because they invited you. You will carry answers into places where confusion ruled. You will radiate healing where pain had reigned. Your presence will disrupt patterns, not because of who you are, but because of who you carry. This is not a promotion man can block. It is not a moment pride can touch. It is not an opportunity you earned. It is a fulfillment I ordained. So keep your heart pure, your hands open, and your eyes fixed on me. Because what's coming won't look like revenge. It will look like redemption. I'm not here to make them regret ignoring you. I'm here to make sure you're ready when I send you. This is the moment they didn't see coming, but I've been preparing it all along. The delays you endured were not because I forgot. They were the result of me rearranging what would have destroyed you if given too soon. But now, I am shifting the atmosphere around your name and placing a divine interruption in the normal course of things, not to confuse you, but to correct what was never aligned with my original intention. Your wait is no longer about preparation. It's about timing, and the appointed moment has arrived. I'm inserting myself into the very system that tried to keep you stagnant. I'm disrupting cycles that attempted to bury you beneath endless waiting, and I am breaking timelines constructed by men that never accounted for my power to override. You're not behind. You're exactly where I needed you to be to initiate the chain reaction I've been holding in place until this second. While others moved fast, they moved without foundation. You, however, stood still while I forged endurance beneath your feet. Now that your patience has matured into discernment, I can trust you with sudden movements. Acceleration is not reckless when I'm the one steering the pace. Doors will not just open, they will swing so wide that even those who oppose you will be unable to deny that my hand moved before you touched the handle. Every system that counted you out must now recalculate. Every voice that said too late must now go silent. I am sending what was withheld without needing anyone's permission. When I step in, no law of nature, no rule of logic, no tradition of man can restrain what I release. This interruption will not be a disturbance. It will be a restoration. It will realign what drifted. It will correct the records. It will reverse the reports. What they declared filed will become undone. What was passed over will now be highlighted. The timeline you thought was wasted is about to become the proof that I was working beneath the surface the entire time. I am not giving you something premature. I'm handing you what is fully ripened, pressed down, running over, and sealed by my voice alone. And it will not just arrive, it will erupt. You will be surprised by how fast things begin to shift. Where once you saw silence, you will now see signal. Where once you stood in pause, now you will move in purpose. But this acceleration is not for your comfort. It's for my covenant. What I'm unlocking will demand focus. You cannot carry this pace and cling to what used to comfort your delay. I am removing old routines that served you during the waiting season but will only weigh you down in this fast-forward moment. Be ready to let go without explanation. Be willing to walk without applause. Be willing to run without permission. You are not going ahead alone. I am clearing the path before your next step even touches it. Miracles will become your normal. Breakthroughs will become your rhythm. What others need months to build, I will place in your hands within days. This is not a shortcut. It's a shift. This is not a blessing you begged for. It's the manifestation of the promises I whispered when you felt forgotten. You won't need to chase after proof. The proof will show up uninvited. Contracts will rewrite themselves. Meetings will be moved to include your name. The yes you never received will come looking for you. That phone call, that approval, that opportunity, that divine encounter. It's already moving toward you with no detours, because I've interrupted every hindering force that stood in your way. I am not asking for their cooperation. I'm commanding alignment. I'm not seeking their support. I'm releasing fulfillment. Don't second-guess the speed. Don't let fear question the blessing. This is what I do when the appointed time arrives. I don't need slow progression when I'm releasing supernatural momentum. You're stepping into divine eruption, the kind that floods everything around you without warning. So hold tight. Stay low. Stay ready. What you thought would take 10 years will be placed into your hands without struggle. I have stepped into your timeline, and nothing will ever move at the same speed again. I must speak to you immediately, because what has surrounded you wasn't always sent by me, even though it wore the appearance of safety. Some coverings were constructed by fear, not faith. Some boundaries were built from past betrayals, not my blueprint. And I allowed you to remain within those limits for a time, not to trap you, but to let you see the difference between what shields you and what silences you. Now, I am tearing the curtain that has separated you from what is truly yours. Not everything that kept you hidden was holy. Not everything that kept others out was righteous. You've accepted some cages as comfort zones, and some limitations as wisdom, but I am revealing that many of those were masks for chains. This unveiling is holy because it will not just remove what hindered you. It will reveal what I planted deep within you that was never allowed to breathe. Your confidence was covered. Your clarity was muffled. Your calling was minimized. Not because you lacked power, but because what surrounded you taught you to shrink to survive. But you were never made to shrink. You were designed to shine. And now, I am peeling away everything that diluted your design. I am silencing the voices that disguised their control as counsel. I am removing the layers that were added by rejection, suspicion, and shame. You will no longer live under second-hand identity or borrowed courage. What I placed inside you was not meant to remain dormant. It was waiting for this very unveiling. Be prepared. Not everyone will recognize the version of you that's emerging. Some were only comfortable with your silence, not your strength. Some called your obedience rebellion because it didn't bow to their opinion. Others celebrated your pain because it made them feel more secure in their own delay. But I did not call you to blend in with brokenness. I called you to rise above patterns that have persisted for generations. This unveiling will disturb the systems that preferred you hidden. It will frustrate the plans of those who benefited from your invisibility. But do not fear the exposure. It is not to shame you. It is to free you. I am lifting the veil over your decisions. I am uncovering what was behind the confusion. I am shining my light where manipulation once ruled. That relationship you couldn't explain. That opportunity that kept slipping. That environment that once felt right but now feels suffocating. I am exposing it for what it is, not to hurt you, but to heal you. When the truth is revealed, clarity follows. And when clarity enters, progress accelerates. I am not trying to embarrass you. I am introducing you to the version of yourself you haven't met yet. The one that didn't compromise. The one that didn't settle. The one that speaks without fear and walks without needing permission. You don't need to fight this unveiling. You just need to stand still while I remove the coverings. What is of me will remain. What is not will fall. Do not mourn what leaves. Do not chase what crumbles. This is not the end of anything precious, it's the end of everything poisonous. What will be left is the pure gold I've refined through every secret fire. And when you look around after the dust settles, you'll see that you were never losing. I was rearranging. The unveiling is a gift, even if it arrives wrapped in discomfort. This is the season where truth will be your shield, where transparency will unlock treasure, where authenticity will introduce authority. No more false coverings. No more hiding behind politeness that compromises power. No more dimming your discernment to keep the peace. I am removing what blocks the view of what I've destined you to carry. And the world will no longer meet the edited version of your anointing. They will encounter it in full. Amen.